It's a strange thing if I think of my earthly dad, who was well off. His granddad had been an incredible builder in the East End of London and owned, streets of houses. And that had been passed down through the generations, like to his mum and his aunts, and 3/4 of it was going to come to, or I don't know, I suppose all of it really, was going to come to Dad, and did. Wasn't with him when that happened, but and a bit like royal family here, he had to wait far too long to have the full benefit of it. But he lived a life of affluence and, I was going to say a big noise, little noise in the city, manager of stockbrokers and so on. And therefore came close to people with wealth and power like the partners, who themselves come close to the more upper class. And you live in a world where your pleasure at weekends with the family might be to visit stately homes, walk around them, see the huge estate and overwhelming affluence of the decor in the palaces, really. And he had a car when most people didn't have cars. Hardly anyone had cars, And Dad was born in 1909. And when he was old enough, something silly like 15 or so, he bought him a car. Outright, brand new. Must have been a Lanchester. No, that was the second one. 2-seater. A Riley. Well, 4-seater in a way. You could sit on the boot outside the car, facing backwards. Not so good in the rain, eh? No. Seatbelts? Oh, goodness, no. Long before anyone thought of that. Driving tests. What for? Just about nothing on the road anyway. Affluence, you see. But it's as if the more affluent you are, the more you realise you haven't got the steps above you. So although he preferred the philosophy of being a big fish in a little pool, he knew at heart he was just a small fish in a big pool. Frustrating, that. Mum, on the other hand, knew that she'd come up from poverty. Hand-me-down clothes and shoes. Walk how many miles to school? Long way. Yeah. Grammar school. Very bright she was. Won a scholarship. Dad, probably not so bright. Able, of course. Went to private school, but not a prestigious one. Might have been slightly prestigious in its own little locality, Southend-on-Sea, Essex. Back then, early 20th century. Southend's known for its pier. Longest pier in the world, or sort of public pier, you know. Mile and quarter, mile and a half. Got a train down it. First pier to have a train down it. Dad was Victorian, you see, brought up by a very old-fashioned mum and her sister, auntie. Only child. Cared for, but in a very strictly Victorian understanding of it. Father, not dictatorial. Earnest by name, earnest by nature. Not of affluent background himself. Rescued by the family, married grandma, the boss's daughter. Where he worked for the builder, his father-in-law to be. After the First World War, lost the use of a lung and it gassed in the trenches, you know. Doctor in the East End said to him, look, you'll have to move to the seaside or you'll be dead in a few years. So moved to Southend, the main street that led to the high street. Prestigious house, especially relative to the locality. Had a trap, horse and trap. Transport, no, you know. Smoked, still smoked, would you believe it? 60 a day. Would light one cigarette from the burnout of the last. Died of cancer of the throat. Not surprising, was it? Grandmother lived on for decades afterwards. Alone. Well, days. The scullery maid, but she lived in the scullery. Had a bedroom upstairs, of course, but didn't live in the lounge with grandma. Old-fashioned house, incredibly old-fashioned. Stag's head in the hall, high up on the wall, quite high ceilings, Victorian type house, you see. Massive furniture, far too heavy to lift. Whether it was armchair or whether it was desk or table or chest of drawers, absurdly heavy, thick, heavy wood. Massive marble clocks that sat in the middle of substantial mantelpieces and fireplaces of each room, including the bedrooms. All had fireplaces. Just about never lit as far as I know. not quite a father clock, grandmother clock that ticked almost ominously slowly on the landing area of the stairway. I used to stay in the house when Mum and Dad went to offices, balls, dances, I'd stay the night at Grandma's, go on the bus, 6 miles away to Southend. We lived in Rayleigh. Posh house, really. For Rayleigh, anyway. Very posh. 1.5 acres of garden, 90 fruit trees. But I didn't know I was affluent. I just knew, obviously, we were more comfortable than other people. Didn't really appreciate the, if you like, the financial privileged position that my family were in. I knew that Dad was a big noise locally, so to speak, but I loved Mum. Mum loved me. That's what counted. Rows in the house between Mum and Dad. Endless rows. They could have 3 or 4 in a day at the weekend. Shouting and screaming at each other. God dear. Very worrying as a child. Really worrying. But the drive of these 2 individuals, Mum, of course, she'd married well. Dad, he'd got everything he wanted, including prettiest woman in the world. Sort of got her anyway. She didn't love him, to say the least. He loved her, but she was a nightmare to him from his point of view. Extremely good wife in others' ways. Kept the house very well. Lovely cooking from his point of view. Fortunately, his mum had been an extremely bad cook, so he appreciated Mum's cooking, although she felt she couldn't cook, really. I felt she could cook, of course. But then I loved her. He loved her too. But she only loved her son. Tricky, to say the least. Well, I don't know if I should say I lost or I put aside all this worldly wealth. Not its position, though. I became an economist and professional and teacher and lecturer and all that rubbish. Not rubbish from my point of view, don't get me wrong. Gave me a wonderful opportunity to just think my way through life. An incredibly privileged life, really. Great difficulties in its context, but incredibly privileged. Superficially, you could say, by my family. In reality, spiritually, you would say, of course, by the love of our Heavenly Dad. And so, despite it all, I found God. Thank you, Heavenly Dad.